Got an article from a website called Hollywood and Toto. Adam Devine blasts Hollywood for forcing messages into comedies. Outlaw star bemoans dearth of funny films, impact of Marvel movies. Adam Devine isn't a superstar, but he's one of the most consistent comedic voices over the last decade plus. Modern Family, Workaholics, Pitch Perfect franchise, Uncle Grandpa, The Intern. Now he's the co-producer and star of The Outlaws, a new Netflix action comedy. It's kind of under the Adam Sandler tree, kind of, basically. But anyway, the action comedy follows Devine as he balances his upcoming wedding with the suspicion his future in-laws, Ellen Barkin and Pierce Brosnan, are crooks. He makes us laugh for a living, but he's still frustrated by the lack of breakout comedy films in recent years. He opened about the issue with comedian Theo Vaughn and the latter's podcast this past weekend. Devine shared his appreciation for making The Outlaws of Adam Sandler's production company, but bemoaned the sorry state of modern movie comedies. The few that exist aren't very well funny. This isn't a fucking comedy. Where's the jokes? Where's the bits? Devine asked. Movie comedy is hard. My theory, Marvel ruined it. You go to the theaters and expect to cost something that cost $200 million to make. Comedy movies aren't that. Why would I spend the same amount of money to go watch a little comedy in a theater if I could spend the same amount for something that's worth $200 million? And they still make those MCU movies kind of funny. Well, that's my overall problem. I'm more the type that if I'm going to go spend money in the theater, the time, the hassle, all that shit, I'm going to pay $15 or however much, It needs to be an action movie. It needs to be like see it on the large screen and stuff. I've always felt that way though. It's not just because of like woke diversity or that kind of stuff, but it's like why I can watch this stuff at home. I would say streaming has done more of a job, but anyway, whatever, or more of a damage to it. Anyway, Devine mentioned Hollywood once rolled out roughly 40 comedies a year, producing 6 to 8 gems in the process. Now it's less than 10, he argued. The crazy thing is it feels like people need comedy more now than ever. Devine says there's something else in play. In fact, that could be causing problems for big screen laughter. There's like no hidden message in The Outlaws. I feel like nowadays you get to the end of what you think is a comedy and you're like, is that about global warming? Is there some sort of deep hidden message that I'm supposed to recycle more? Oh, the movie, or the moon is trans. Is that the surprise ending? Vaughn cracked. My job now is pitching a lot. And every executive's like, but why should we make this now? Because it's funny. Whatever happened to just like, we want to make people laugh. That's very telling. And I go on and talk about, I'll link to his description box, you can read it for yourself, but he goes on and says, I feel like Superbad was one of the last movies that way, talking about funny for funny's sake. The Hangover, Superbad, that was the last gasp for the no reason at all comedies. This is just fucking funny because it's funny. He also criticized studio decisions to release 2 comedies, The Machine and About My Father, on that same weekend earlier this summer despite how few comedies snag a theatrical release as of late. It's true. I mean, like I said, I don't agree with everything he said, but I agree with a fair amount of it. It's one of those things, though, that in this economy and all that kind of stuff, you got people who are like, why do I want to spend this money to go see these comedies, which aren't very good to begin with? But even in the heyday, it was still, you were almost kind of like flipping a coin as to whether it would be legitimately funny or whatever. Like, The Hangover and Superbad. I know people who don't like those movies. They didn't think they were all that funny. Not because they were offended or whatever by the jokes or something. They just didn't think they were very funny. Now, of course, I know other people who think they were hilarious. It's just, people's taste and so on and so forth. I think he makes a very good point. Although The Machine, I don't like Bert Kreischer. I don't think the guy's very funny. He just looks like some fat schlub to me. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the gimmick. I don't get it. But, whatever. But they shouldn't be releasing 2 of these small-time comedies on the same weekend. That's asking for cannibalization, but whatever. Anyway, like I said, I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. I'll link this in the description box. You can read it for yourself. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.